What is up? Welcome into Driving the Line, College World Series edition. We have made it. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And this show is going to be all about breaking down the College World Series from every angle. Not only game one best bets, we're going to go through projecting out to game twos, how to look at the bracket, how to use futures and numbers in your leverage and advantage right now. And have some fun doing it too. Everybody in the crew, hit that like button. You've got a poll in the chat now. Who you going with to win this thing? All right. So we only have 4 options in the poll. All right, from YouTube. So we got Tennessee, Texas A&M, Florida State, or the field. Get your vote in now. And anybody who's been with us through the entire baseball season and the postseason, you know that this show is the most interactive. I need you. I'm going to put you to work because your voice is just as important as mine as we break these games down. So, everybody, man, just good to see you. Good to see all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, a couple comments before we jump in. Yep, Joseph says, pay attention to game 1 pitching. Absolutely. Pay attention to game 2 pitching as well. We're going to break that down. Also, understand that the park, Charles Schwab Field in Omaha, is way bigger than most, if not all, of these college baseball home stadium parks that they play in. But it doesn't mean that runs won't happen. What you want to pay attention to is the wind and where it is blowing, because if it's blowing out, you are sitting pretty. If it's blowing in, home runs, they're not going to go. You got to mash those things. But pay attention to that, and we'll go through all that. I mean, we're taping this going live Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you're watching on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the information here will work throughout the next 2 weeks, essentially. Like, you'll be able to use this info. So feel free, bookmark it, come back to it. Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's get into this. Let me bring it up here, and I'll leave myself on screen. So these are the 8. This is what we have. Okay, and I'll give you the official bracket here in just a second so that you can see exactly how this thing gets down. All right, Tennessee, Florida State, Virginia, North Carolina, Kentucky, NC State, Florida, Texas A&M. Those are your 8. Left side, bracket 1. Right side, bracket 2. Now, I want to make sure to say this right out of the gate, that if you are brand new to betting college baseball, College World Series, welcome. I'm telling you, ask the questions that you have in the chat. Ask me on Twitter. Ask them on the shows on Thursday morning, Friday morning, Saturday. Keep going, whenever, okay? Trust me, we've all done it for the first time once. I do not want anyone to feel overwhelmed. Trust me, you will not after this show. So here is the official bracket, and let me pull this up full screen so that you can see, okay? So this is how it works. All right, you've got 2 brackets here. So bracket 1, you got North Carolina and Virginia, Tennessee and Florida State. Bracket 2, Kentucky, NC State, Texas A&M, and Florida. So you have 4 teams on each side, okay? These 4 teams in each bracket, say 4 teams in bracket 1, all right? They play each other, and it's double elimination to determine who gets to the final against the winner of bracket 2. Okay, so teams in bracket 1 will not play teams of bracket 2 unless they reach the championship. The championship is a best of 3 series. First one to win 2 games wins it all. So take a look at the bracket here. So you see North Carolina, Virginia, game 1, Tennessee, Florida State right after it. Those games will be played on Friday. Okay, they will be played at 2 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. Eastern. Saturday, Kentucky and NC State, 2 p.m. Eastern. Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern, Texas A&M and Florida. So you will see a bracket under each, essentially, game 2, so to say. I lost the words on that one. So essentially what it is these teams that play on Friday in bracket 1, North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Florida State, all right, they will play again on Sunday. So you see that game 5 right there below Tennessee and Florida State. The losers of that game, of both of these games, so the loser of North Carolina, Virginia, the loser of Florida State and Tennessee, will play each other on Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern, okay? Whoever loses that is out. Double elimination, gone. The winners of the Friday games of North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Florida State will play Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You see that bracket right beside Tennessee, Florida State, North Carolina, Virginia. Those two winners, all right, will play each other. So that's how this thing works. So the loser of the winner's game, all right, or the winner of the loser's game, so to say. I know it's confusing, but you guys know how brackets work. So if you have any questions, let me know. Okay. So my man DC says Chestnut should win. No problem. I was meant to click on another one, but that one works too. My man Big Schwan, weather looks good for Friday. Possible shower Saturday afternoon. Great information right there. And we will keep everyone updated on all of these every single day because we'll be live Friday morning. We'll be on Saturday, we'll be on Sunday, and we'll just have you covered. Don't worry about that at all. Okay, so let's get into some odds here before we break down each game. All right, so these are the odds courtesy of DraftKings, all right, to win the College World Series. Tennessee 290, Texas A&M 350, Kentucky 450, North Carolina 650, Florida State 800, NC State 900, Virginia 1,000, Florida plus 1,300. Now, these are pretty, and I'll pull myself on the screen. These are pretty standard fare, all right? I think they're pretty spot on. What I want you to pay attention to is Florida State, plus 800. Florida State is a much better team than those odds show you. The reason that it's plus 800 is because they're playing Tennessee in game one. If Florida State beats Tennessee in game one, which they are very capable of doing, okay, those odds are going to go from 800 to about 300. So pay attention. If you're looking for value, you want to take a little shot, Florida State is a team to do it right there. But quite frankly, any of these 8 teams can win this thing, any of them. And we'll go through game by game, team by team, and I'll show you some information that you're going to want. Also, as I pull the next screen up, our man Raphael is in the chat. And these next 2 slides, courtesy of Doc Sports, they have been working tirelessly. So we want to give them thanks on this because check this out. These are the odds to reach the College World Series final. Not win it, but reach it. Texas A&M plus 120, Tennessee plus 130, Kentucky plus 200, North Carolina plus 300, Virginia 400, Florida State 450, NC State 550, Florida 550. Also, let me say this. Everyone in the Driving the Line crew, you have a Google Slides area that we have built just for you. And every one of these slides are already in there. If you look in the show description right now, you will see the link to that. It is there for you. Every single one of these slides we have on the show are in there. So if you need to reference them, if you want to pull them up now or pull them up later, taking a look, you break down teams, break down games, they're right there. You can have it. Okay, next one. Again, courtesy of Doc Sports. And I'm not going to read all these. You can go find it or you can hit pause. But the College World Series final exact odds, okay? Your 3 favorites, Tennessee, Texas A&M plus 400, Tennessee and Kentucky plus 525, and North Carolina, Texas A&M plus 750. All right, hit pause. Feel free. I'm not going to read all of them because nobody wants to hear me read that much. You can hit pause or you can go to the DTL Crew Google Slides area, grab it, take a look, do your thing. Again, courtesy of Doc Sports, our guys. Big Raphael doing the heavy lifting for us. Okay, let's break down some games. I'm going to pull this on screen. Full on screen. Oh, that's me. You don't want to see me. Okay, I'm an idiot, but have some fun with these games. So, game 1, 2 p.m. Eastern on Friday. North Carolina and Virginia. North Carolina minus 140 favorite. Virginia plus 110 dog. College baseball, not saying that that's exactly even, but it's pretty darn close. All right, everybody that's bet the sport knows that it can get out of control with the juice prices. So, goes to show you. Now, take a look at these 2 teams. Understand, we have 4 teams from the SEC, and we have 4 teams from the ACC. On the left side of bracket 1, 3 ACC teams, 1 SEC, that being Tennessee. You've got North Carolina and Virginia right here in game 1. Okay? And then Florida State, obviously, was break down in a second. Take a look at the records. Pretty even. 47-14, 46-15. Batting averages. All right? Virginia can hit. North Carolina can hit. 304 to 336. Runs per game, pretty standard. 8-7. 9.4. Home runs, pretty even as well. 113, 116. Now, I went through the last 5 game 1s for every single team that is in the College World Series. I left out the conference tournaments because those can get a little wonky, but the last 5 game ones of every single team. North Carolina 4-1, Virginia 3-2. All right. I also went through the last 5 game twos of every single team here. Look at that. North Carolina 5-0, Virginia 5-0. Neutral sites, North Carolina 1-3, Virginia 4-3. Look at the pitching ERAs on the season. North Carolina 4.22, Virginia 5.47. All right. Now, Shawan brings a good point. Virginia won 2 of the 3 in the regular season. And that's why I brought up the conference play or the conferences, SEC, ACC. These teams have played each other. But is it going to matter where you have 3 ACC teams in bracket 1 and 3 SEC teams in bracket 2? We'll find out. Runs allowed per game. 4.2, North Carolina. Virginia, 6.0. So we don't have totals yet. I'll pull myself back on screen. We don't have totals yet. I'm thinking that this one could be somewhat low. Like, it could be, my projection is 10.5, but we'll see. All right. This one's a tough one to bet. Put in the chat, who do you think wins this game, North Carolina or Virginia? This one's pretty tough. If I had to lean, excuse me, I think I'm going to go North Carolina. I think. Minus 140, like just picking a winner here. I think North Carolina. What do you think about the total? And again, we don't have them as of recording. But let's just say 10.5. Let's just use that as a baseline, and it could be off. It's just me talking, but that, I don't know. I might go under in game 1 in this one if it were 10.5, even though that's a low number. Yeah, it's tough. This one's really difficult. Schwan says he'd lead in Virginia for the price. I don't disagree. Raphael says North Carolina, but shop around some books. There you go. Yeah, good call on that one, man, for sure. Eclipse says, don't we hate unders? Dude, we absolutely hate unders. Like, I'm not going to bet an under unless it's just some ridiculous, total that the books, like, just clearly don't have an idea on these teams. But they'll be pretty sharp. Now, here's also the thing. We should get team totals as well. And that will change everything because that's exactly what I want to look at. I have 2 picks that I'll give through the show, but we're going to have way more. And once we get team totals, I'm going to show you how to use team totals and money lines together in these games to essentially make these much easier for you to break down. But that's game 1. Feel free to drop in the chat who you like. And we'll use 10.5. But again, I could be way off. Raphael, ask him any questions in the chat while you have him. Trust me, he is way more knowledgeable sportsbook-wise than I am. All right, let's go to game 2 of bracket 1. 7 p.m. Eastern, Friday night. This is going to be a war. I know that you see minus 180, plus 140. Look at these teams. And I'll pull this full screen so that you can see. All right, Tennessee, 55-12. Florida State, 47-15. But these 2 teams can hit. Now, I'm sorry. Batting averages, Tennessee 310, Florida State 316. Runs per game, 9.2, 9.0. Home runs, look at Tennessee, 173 home runs this year. Florida State, 123. Now, say that because Caleb Marsh asked a great question. Does the size of the stadium concern you about tackling? Yes. Now, wind and weather, definitely going to play into it. All right. If the wind is blowing out, like we saw last year, Florida was bombing home runs. LSU was bombing home runs, right? If it's blowing out. But if it's not, or if you have rainy weather, I mean, it's very much, and you can ask Raphael, it's very much like Wrigley. And I was with the BVB boys earlier today, and we were discussing exactly that. Matt Peralt, which is a great follow, man. He was, breaking it down with full experience of having been there multiple times, that it's very similar to Wrigley. So I want to give him his props, but I also want to use that because it is a good comparison right there. Okay. Last 5 game 1s, Tennessee 5-0, Florida State 3-2. Last 5 game 2s, Tennessee 3-2, Florida State 4-1. Neutral sites, look at this, 6-2 Tennessee, 7-1 Florida State. ERAs, Tennessee 3.83, Florida State 4.90, which also shows in the runs allowed per game. Tennessee 4, Florida State 5.3. So I'll pull myself back here. Drop in the chat what you think about this one. Now, Raphael, feel free to drop like what you project totals could be. I'm going to use 13.5 on this one. Friday night could be hot. The weather's blowing out. I would be all over the over in this one. It's going to be a hell of a game. I'm telling you. Look, Tennessee could go out and smoke Florida State. Florida State could come out and smoke Tennessee. Or we could have a high-scoring affair, tight, low-scoring. Like, this one could go in any direction. Any direction. But I'll say this. I'm taking Tennessee in this one. And not because I'm here in Tennessee. I'm taking Tennessee because I believe and have heard and listened to personally, this Tennessee team knows exactly what time it is. They know exactly what time it is. They are ready to go. Now, again, you can be as ready as you want to, and Florida State can come out and kick your ass because they've done that to teams all year long. But I'm leaning Tennessee on this one. All right. My man Mark says, the extended rest, will the favorite teams use their number 2 or number 3 pitchers for game 1 to keep the stud for game 2? I doubt it. Like, I doubt it. Like, I'm not saying it can't happen in any of these games, but pitchers are creatures of habit, and especially throwing the first game, and especially on Fridays. Now, Saturday could be a little different. Raphael says, evening game, Tennessee, Florida State, could have the wind blowing out through right field. There you go. If it's blowing out, dude, both these teams mash bombs, man. But yeah, Mark, back to your question about, number 1s and number 2s. I think all of these teams will keep it pretty standard fare. I don't see any, like, some teams love to go with that strategy, but quite frankly, all 8 of these teams can win. Like, I think that they keep on playing exactly what they've been doing. So again, all of these slides are available in your DTL Google Drive. So feel free to go grab them anytime, and you will see information here that you can use projecting to game 2s. All right. That's why we wanted to include this information. Joseph says, if Florida State goes Prager game 1, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, Florida State is so good. They are so good, and their bats have been hot. I know Tennessee's have been. Florida State's have been even better. Like, they're just unbelievable, man. Like, plus 140, if you're looking to bet an underdog here, like in game 1s, like, dude, I mean, I just spoke about the futures with Florida State. Like, I would not blame anybody betting plus 140. Anyone. But yeah. So that's this one. And feel free to drop in the chat thoughts, comments, break them down. Okay. Pull this up. Let's go to game 3. So this will be played Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern. You've got Kentucky, the number 2 seed overall tournament, going up against NC State. Understand this. Kentucky, this is the first time in program history that they have been to the College World Series. So they're excited, as they should be. This is an excellent baseball team. They're the number 2 ranked team, country for a reason. All right. 45-14, NC State 38-21. Batting averages, Kentucky 287, NC State 290. Runs per game, 7.9 Kentucky, 7.7 NC State. Home runs, 84 for Kentucky. Think like 84, 99 for NC State. Now go back and look. 173 for Tennessee, 123 for Florida State. All right. 113, 116. So the interesting thing with these games is that I really feel like all 4 matchups, in game 1, like they're kind of the mirror image of each other. Like, we're going to have really, really good game 1s here. Speaking of game 1s, Kentucky 4-1 the last 5, NC State 5-0. Kentucky 4-1 the last 5 game 2s, NC State 2-3. Interesting there. Keep an eye on that. We saw, how that Georgia game went. When they blew out Georgia in game 1, Georgia blew them out in game 2. Now, neutral sites, 3-3 Kentucky, 1-1 NC State. Not a big pool to really work with, and I'll pull myself back on screen. Kentucky 4.95 ERA. NC State 6.09 ERA. Kentucky's pitching is fantastic. I know that we look at right here 4.95, but I mean, in both, like all of these teams, take into account the teams they played against their conferences, right? Like, there's a reason why there's 4 SEC teams, 4 ACC. They play ridiculous competition. So this one, I think the total would probably be 11.5. That's my guess. I wouldn't mind the over here. NC State blasts in game ones, and I'm not just referencing the 5-0 there. They've been doing that all year long. Kentucky can hit too, but NC State can hit Kentucky's pitching. But NC State will give up runs. All right, you see it. Runs allowed per game, 5.2 for Kentucky, 6.3 for NC State. If we get 11.5 on a total here, I'm ASAP going over. Now, if I'm picking a winner, NC State. Doing the same thing that we did in the Super Regionals, all right, against Georgia. If you're going to give me NC State at plus money, I'm going to take NC State at plus money. They are a ridiculously good baseball team. I'm not saying Kentucky's not, because they are. But NC State has been underrated all damn year. And in game ones, you could go to d1baseball.com, shout out to them, and look at NC State throughout the season. They'll hammer you. Like, they're not afraid to hit. They come aggressive. Game twos are a little bit different, but game ones, they swing the stick, son. I'm going to go NC State here to win this one. I'm fascinated if Kentucky, their first time ever being here, if that plays into any nerves. Probably not. I don't know. NC State, they've been here. They are not new to the College World Series, to the postseason. Like, that's a program that's consistently here. Larry C asks, crew, which team has the best pitching staff and most consistent closer? Great question. Great question. Maybe might be Kentucky. It's Kentucky or Tennessee. All right. I'll show you here. Let's just take a look here. All right. And we'll just use raw numbers. But Tennessee's got a hell of a closer. All right. Kirby Connell. And they can platoon it too. North Carolina's got a million people in their bullpen. Like, they could throw. All right. So if you just look at ERAs, 4.22, 5.47, 3.83 for Tennessee, 4.9 Florida State, 4.95 Kentucky, 6.09 NC State, Texas A&M 3.93, Florida 6.16. Texas A&M is legit too. Texas A&M, Tennessee, Kentucky, their starting pitchers can get after you. Texas A&M, their closer can get after, like, those three. Now, I think that Kentucky, as of late, I would give them the nod. A&M's been giving up a ton of runs. Tennessee, quite frankly, is giving up runs too. So I'd give, if you're looking for recent, I would give Tennessee the nod. Or Tennessee, I would give Kentucky the nod. But it's tough. Like, closing-wise, it's difficult because some of them go platoon. Some of them will hit you. One guy 7th inning, one guy 8th inning, one guy 9th inning. Some of them go traditional. Yeah, you just kind of like these teams will get they'll throw different stuff at you. They'll throw different looks. But I would, if you're looking at recent history, I would give Kentucky just overall staff, like, they're solid. But Florida State, man, like, dude, they can take a game from you. So yeah, all right. So this one. Let me know what you guys think in the chat, because again, you see the money line prices: Kentucky minus 145, NC State plus 115. Again, that's pretty damn close. I'm going to roll NC State here. Again, like I said, they are just consistent, especially in game ones. They just deliver. Kentucky against Oregon State did not score a ton of, like, I mean, they did early, but that thing, game 2 was, that's what I worry about Kentucky. They can get stuck in the mud offensively. But damn, their pitching is good. But they'll walk people too. That's another problem. Mark says, how high would you go on this game? 12.5, maybe. Like, I don't want to go too high because these two teams are not afraid to play a major league 5-3 style game. Like, they live in it. Kentucky has lived in it all year long. NC State will give up some runs, but NC State can pound you too. Like, that's the concern. Is that NC State is that good in game one? It's like legitimately they can go off, but 12.5. Like I wouldn't go too high, man. Especially if there's weather on Saturday. Like I would very much pay attention to the weather because if it starts raining, like, dude, you could see a lot of ground balls, in this game. So probably 12.5, but we'll hit it once we absolutely know the number, the total, and go from there. All right, last game here. Let me pull this back full screen. All right, Texas A&M, Florida. So we've talked about Florida since the regionals. Absolutely dangerous. The problem with them all year, and you see the records, Texas A&M 49-13, Florida 34-28. The problem with Florida is not talent. Now it's pitching, but they've got hitters. They can play with anybody. Yeah, Preston, Braden Montgomery out for A&M. Yeah, that's a concern. NC State has some injury concerns too. But I think Texas A&M, like, I'll pull myself back here so you can see. All right, we'll go through this. All right, the records. Batting average, Texas A&M 300, Florida 272. Runs per game, 8.7 A&M, Florida 7.0. Home runs, 132, 131. Like both mash bombs. Last 5 game ones, excuse me, 3-2 A&M, 2-3 Florida. Last 5 game twos, 2-3 A&M, Florida 3-2. Like, I'm telling you, these teams are like, all 4 games are like mirror images, man. It's crazy. It's such a good breakdown of how we got it. ERAs, again, A&M 3.93, Florida 6.16. Runs allowed per game, A&M 4.2, Florida 6.3. If I had to project a total, 12.5, I think 12.5. Could see 13.5. But A&M could also light up the pitching. That's where books are going to be concerned because at any given moment, A&M's their pitching staff is good enough to shut anybody down. So let's use 12.5. I would take the over. A&M has been scoring runs like crazy, especially in that Super Regional against Oregon. But they give up runs, especially early in the games too. Robbie says, AB knows where I'm going on this. Yeah, I know where you're going. The Gators. I would take the over, but I would take Texas A&M too. I think Texas A&M is just an overall much more consistent team all year than Florida has been. And I think A&M, they've had some weird scares, man, throughout regionals and super regionals. Sorry, I'm going to take a drink. And I think now they know exactly what time it is. Here's the other concern. So we've talked about Florida and them being dangerous because they had nothing to lose, which has been accurate. We nailed that. That only goes so far. Florida could reach a point now where you do have something to lose because now it's real. You've done it. You've kind of made the run. Nobody believed in you. Now people are starting to believe in you. And it gets dangerous betting that. Now, that's not any kind of tangible data to play off of. However, it's real. Like, it's real. I'm going Texas A&M. And let me pull the picks up so that you can see. So here's what I've got. NC State money line plus 115. Tennessee money line and Texas A&M money line plus 135. We're going to have plenty more. Do not concern yourself that you only see 2. That's not what we have. Like, we're going to do this day by day. So don't worry about that whatsoever. We'll have totals, team totals. Trust me, we'll have way more. But I'm going to jump on these now. I'm going to jump on NC State while it's plus money. And I'm going to take a shot at Tennessee, Texas A&M. We're not going to be parlaying a ton in the College World Series because, quite frankly, we're not going to need to because these teams are all so, tight here. But I'm going to take a shot on one. And we're going to roll Tennessee and Texas A&M plus 135. I like that number. But we're going to take NC State plus 115 as well because I like that. I like that as well. And NC State, like, they haven't been just doing this, regionals. They've been doing this all year. They're just an underrated baseball team. Nobody talks about them, but they're good. They're damn good. And they're not afraid to hit you out of a ballpark. Not afraid. They've got pitching that once they get up, you could be in trouble. Ask Georgia. But I'm going to roll with those. So pull it back on screen here. Any questions that anybody has? And like I said, projecting out to game twos. So let's do that one. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. And let me pull the bracket here right back up so that we can talk about game twos. So I'm going to use like who I think wins for this exercise. But understand, a lot of us going to have different bets here because, again, all 8 teams are good. And it's college baseball. Y'all know it. So I'm going to go with Carolina and Tennessee to both win. So that would leave Florida State and Virginia in the losers game to where you're playing for your life. It would be hard for me to bet against Florida State. Be hard to do it. That being said, though, Virginia is very consistent. They're very much like NC State. Do not play around with them. But it would be tough for me not to take Florida State just because the run production could go up. All right, he says, grape Kool-Aid or orange, making some while watching. Both. They're both good. I think you could get more run out of – actually, you could probably get more run out of orange. Because grape, like unless you love the grape flavor, like it could get old on you. Orange could kind of too. But I think orange is good for a full pitcher. Grape, a cold, like one glass, fire. Okay. So game 2, if we had North Carolina and Tennessee, I would take Tennessee. I would take Tennessee in that one. Now, if Tennessee loses, and I'll pull myself back here, if Tennessee loses game 1 against Florida State, understand this. Tennessee's only lost back-to-back games once this season, and that was the first conference weekend against Alabama. Now, I'm not saying that for the jinx. I'm not saying it for any of that. What I'm saying is what we talked about in the Super Regional when they lost game 2 against Evansville, and we immediately came back and said, dude, take Tennessee and parlay it. They will beat the hell out of Evansville. Now, again, it's Evansville, but still, I mean, Evansville play great baseball. This Tennessee team understands what time it is. So if Tennessee were to lose, I would take them against Virginia or North Carolina in that losers game bracket there. So how it would work is this. And Larry says, dude, shame that Florida State and Tennessee opening. I know, man. Like, it's great because, like, that's going to be an awesome Friday night game, but it kind of stinks. Like, that would be, like, I hate that one of those teams would have to, like, survive with a loss, right? Yeah. Oh, Matt Olson. There we go, baby. There we go. Preston says, think if Tennessee loses first game, yeah, that number will fall down because Florida State's number will go up. Yeah. Look, I'll tell you this. Go look at what Tennessee did in the SEC, the conference tournament. They lost the first game, and they didn't lose another one. Ran right through it. And they didn't even care. Like, they kind of wanted to just be 2 and done because it did nothing for them. They're already the number 1 seed. And they just, for fun, went through it and won. Right? So, yeah. All right. So, Tennessee, North Carolina, projecting those. I think Tennessee would take that. And then coming out of the losers bracket, like, understand this. Winning game 1 historically has a massive historical advantage for you. It is brutal to go through the losers bracket because you have to win every game until you get to the final. I mean, obviously, right? But winning that game 1 is massively important. So remember that if you are betting any futures odds after the game 1 portion. All right, bracket 2. Kentucky, NC State. I took NC State. I took Texas A&M over Florida. I would take I would take Texas A&M like probably through. If Texas A&M beats Florida in game 1, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think Texas A&M wins this bracket. I really do. If Tennessee beats Florida State in game 1, I think Tennessee takes this bracket. Quite frankly, I think whoever wins Tennessee, Florida State will do it. So how do you project losers game? If we had Kentucky against Florida, I think if Florida loses game 1, Florida could shut it down in game 2. I think if Kentucky loses game one, their nerves could get to them. I'll say this. Jot this down. If Kentucky and Florida play in the game 7 at the bottom, right? If they both lose game one, if they play each other, that over, take it. These two teams will just throw everything they have at the plate. Everything. They'll go. Now, in bracket 1, we'll have to see what the numbers are. But if you get Kentucky and Florida, go look at the history, like this year, against each other. Take that over. They will just swing because both of them will immediately revert to. They truly do. Like they don't have it's all on the line, but they've played like that before, and they will know that feeling, and they will mash each other. Pitching will go crazy. There'll be walks. There will be 9 pitchers for each team used. Do that one. Okay, so that's kind of it. I don't want to go too far because we're going to do this day by day by day, and it's insanely brutal to project beyond that, right? I'll pull myself back on screen. It's impossible because anything could happen. But I think, again, if whoever wins Tennessee and Florida State in that game 1, I think wins that bracket. If Texas A&M beats Florida in game 1, I think they win that bracket. So if you're looking to bet teams that would make the final, which are all plus money, good looks there. Teams that could win it. Tennessee, Florida State, Texas A&M could do it. Again, not saying any of the other 5 can't. Anybody could win. But if Tennessee or Florida State, whoever wins game 1, and Texas A&M, they will have a massive, massive advantage that will be a serious problem against anyone that has a loss. It will be brutal because they can score and they can lean on you with pitching that will just tear you apart. So anyways, we will end it there. Filming this on Wednesday. So Thursday, be live 10 a.m. Eastern normal time. Friday, normal time. And you already know Saturday, Sunday, Monday games, all of it. We will have you covered. So I don't want to project too far. We'll hit it day by day, but it's going to be so much fun. We sit right now 24-11 through the postseason. Regionals, we were 15-6. Super regionals, we were 9-5. So yeah, 24-11. It's exactly where we sit. You know we're going to crush it here in the College World Series. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will be live to cash these tickets and break down and get so many more picks out. But yeah, everybody, thank you. See you soon.